Hi, this is Mike Pettigrew, and today I'd like to talk about the saying, go with the flow. The saying, go with the flow. A new agey saying that we hear again and again and again. And why it is often not actually the best thing to go with the flow. You see, if we look at the lives of highly successful people and people who have managed to transform society in some way and produce remarkable results in their lives and change the very fabric of society, they were certainly not people who went with the flow. For example, Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is known as one of the world's greatest inventors, and one of his many, many inventions is the incandescent light bulb. And if Thomas Edison had simply gone with the flow, our homes probably to this day would be dark instead of lit by his amazing incandescent light bulb for the past century. Now, the amazing thing, if we look at the life of Thomas Edison, is that it took him 1,000 attempts to result in the creation, the invention of the incandescent light bulb. Yet he did not give up. He did not give up, and he was once interviewed, and the reporter asked him, how come you didn't give up ages ago? Because 1,000 attempts, it sounds like madness. And Thomas Edison said to this reporter, well, every time I failed, I knew I was one step closer to inventing the incandescent light bulb. So he did not see his failures as failures. He saw them as yet another way that the light bulb would not work, which he could strike off his list. Now, there are many, many people who have done incredible things for society, and one of these people is Henry Ford, who invented the motor car. And Henry Ford is once again certainly a person who did not go with the flow. In fact, he gave his engineers, his scientists, the task of creating, I think it was a 6-piston or a 4-piston engine in a single block of metal. And his best technical advisors, people who knew a lot more about the technicalities and the science of what he was doing, told him this would be impossible. And, well, his reply was, go ahead and create it anyway, even though it was impossible. And he said, even if it takes you a year or more. And 6 months later, he checked with his technical team again, his team of engineers and scientists, and they had made absolutely no progress. They told him, it's just impossible. It's exactly what we told you 6 months ago. And he said, well, go ahead and create it anyway. So they were in a quandary. And they honestly believed that this was impossible, but you know, they were being paid to create this. So they gave it their best shot, and they ended up being completely successful. So the amazing thing is that if Henry Ford had just accepted that, had just gone with the flow, we would not have motor cars today operating the way they do, and with the efficiency that they do. So once again, Henry Ford is not a person who went with the flow. Same with Mahatma Gandhi. Had Mahatma Gandhi just gone with the flow, by nature he was a very shy man, and if he had given in to that shyness and allowed it to dominate his life, we wouldn't have heard of his name today, and he would not have transformed society in the huge way that he did. So Gandhi is certainly not a person who went with the flow. So if we look outward into society, we see so many examples of great human beings who have transformed society, and in every case they have not gone with the flow. Now, I do realize that this saying, go with the flow, it is very good advice in some circumstances, but only in, I believe, very few circumstances. Because when we go with the flow, we actually can give into our own internal negativity. Because my honest understanding and experience is that when we go with the flow, we disempower ourselves. We can end up doing a far less for ourselves and those around us than had we broken new ground. And going with the flow often it means giving into our inner negative voice, which is actually very potent. It's very subtle, but it is very powerful at keeping amazing human beings disempowered. I honestly feel, and I think you will agree, if you look out into society and look at, as I say, the people who have done great things for humanity, that they are very similar to us. They are very ordinary human beings, except that they have some very specific characteristics that have allowed them to transform society. And in a nutshell, they are people who have not given in to external or internal resistance. They are people with a huge vision, a huge goal for society, and infusing that with emotion and making every effort that they possibly can towards the realization of their goal, and every single day working towards the goal, not giving in to difficulties when they arise. This is what makes an ordinary human being an extraordinary human being. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, this internal negativity that we all possess, in my understanding, we have almost two voices within us, a positive voice and a negative voice. And often our positive voice, the part of ourselves that keeps us moving in the right direction, it's often quite quiet. But simply because we are used to listening to this negative part of ourselves, this part of ourselves that keeps us small, that keeps us powerless, that keeps us fearful, that dominates our lives in many ways. And if we wish to live a really happy life where we are deeply fulfilled and where we really do make a difference in the lives of those around us, we need to master our mind. We need to understand how to overcome that negative inner voice, because whether or not we can overcome this negative inner voice, this negative inner resistance, will determine the outcome of our lives, how our lives progress. Will we leave this world late in our life saying, yeah, I did my best? Or will we have a mountain of regrets? Now that's really sad if we have a mountain of regrets, and we can change this now, today. So it really comes down to making a conscious choice, a conscious decision to stop allowing that negative inner voice to dominate our lives. And if we simply go with the flow, find the easy way each time, we are in effect, in most cases, just giving into this internal negativity. So this is why I say that going with the flow may be the worst advice we can ever get, but it has become a dominant saying in society. Now, going with the flow is very important in certain circumstances where we really need to tap into our inner wisdom and the path is not clear. But when encountering difficulties, going with the flow is not the solution, I assure you. And this has been my own experience, because some years ago, having lost everything, not being able to feed my wife or little son who'd just been born, having been a self-made millionaire, having lost it all, if I had gone with the flow, I shudder to think how our lives would have turned out. But I worked incredibly hard, very focused, even though things were terribly difficult, and I transformed the situation simply through effort, sheer effort, not giving in to my own negative voice, which I assure you was very potent at the time. When you see everything slip and you've gone from a person of being very empowered and a really strong sense of what you can do, and you're just losing and losing and losing so much every day, you start to question your ability. And this is what happened to me. I was really dominated by this inner negative voice for quite some time. But every day I really did manage to break through. So it's like flexing a muscle. It hurts like hell in the beginning, but the more we exercise, the more proficient we become, and the less pain, and the further we move forward. And we can move forwards in our lives incredibly fast. So I really feel that the most important way, the most effective ways to overcome this inner negativity is to have a huge vision for our own lives, our own happiness, and also a great vision for how we want to contribute to society, because we're all in this world to grow and also help others to grow. And it doesn't matter what we do, as long as we're contributing in some way, even in some small way, to the happiness of those around us, and challenging ourselves, this is, I feel, this is my honest belief that this is the core of why we are here in this world, to grow and help others to grow in any way we can. And so that's one factor, to have a really big vision for our lives, not give in to difficulties when they arise, because they will. And difficulties are so important because they enable us to grow qualities we wouldn't possibly have been able to grow any other way. So difficulties and challenges on the way to achieving our goals is essential for us to be able to achieve them, because the only thing that's separating us, the only thing that is separating us from achieving anything we wish in life is some degree of inner change. Okay? We also need to plan adequately towards the accomplishment of our goals, because there is no point in having a big vision but not breaking that vision down into action steps, and we need to make daily consistent efforts towards our goal. Nothing huge, but constant small efforts towards achieving our goal. It's essential if we are to become happy and fulfilled and to achieve what it is that we're setting out to achieve. And as I say, never giving in to challenges when they arise, but also there's another factor, and several other factors, but learning how to use the power of emotion to infuse our thoughts, our prayers, our visualizations and our goals with energy. Because the only way we can achieve something remarkable is if we learn to harness this incredible power of emotion that we have within us. Often we are dominated by emotion. Often we are stuck in an emotion, but we as human beings have an amazing capacity to use emotion as a creative force. And one of the greatest creative forces that I know from my own experience is the power of gratitude. And everything I've just mentioned, I go into in great detail in my 6 CD training program, my 6 CD audio training course, the 30-Day Success Formula, which you can find more details about on my website. But for now, I really would like you to question this saying, go with the flow, whenever you hear it, and see if it applies to your current situation. If going with the flow is actually allowing you to just give in to your weaknesses, or whether going with the flow is actually a wise thing to do. As I say, great people who transform society, in the vast majority of cases, have not gone with the flow. What makes an ordinary person extraordinary is their resilience, the size of their determination, and the efforts that they make. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Bye-bye. I really do hope you've enjoyed this episode, and before I go, I have a very special offer for you, which I'll explain in a moment. But before I do, I just want to say that if you've enjoyed this episode, then please do give us a like below this video, because when you do this, it enables other people to also benefit from it. Of course, if you'd like to leave a comment, then you're most welcome to do so, and I'll be really happy to hear from you. Now, if you're watching this episode on YouTube, then please do remember to subscribe to my channel. And you can also listen to my Transformation and Empowerment podcast on iTunes. Now let me tell you about the special bonus I mentioned a moment ago, because if you go to my website right now at mikepettigrew.com, then for a limited time only you can get free lifetime access to our special members only area. Membership will give you access to all sorts of inspiring and empowering videos and training materials that you won't find anywhere else on my website. And again, right now, membership is completely free, but I can really only offer this for a limited time. So I strongly recommend that you get your membership right now, and I believe you will find it a very valuable resource and source of inspiration and empowerment. And you can sign up and get immediate access from any page on my website. So again, thank you so much for watching this episode, and I look forward to serving you again soon.